to another edition of the Daily Deuce, March Madness edition, that is. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, my longtime friend, esteemed colleague, wonderful basketball coach, John Webster. How you doing, John?
Hey Gary, I'm doing really good, man. Everything's going well. Another big week in sports. Exciting times with all this basketball. I can't wait to get into the conversation with you.
Yeah. Well, let's get right to it, man. Okay, we're finished with the first weekend. Really, no surprises among the top seeds. I think the last I checked, the top 8 seeds in all four regions, or I should say the top 2 seeds in all 4 regions are still alive. So we're talking about basically, the top 8 teams in this whole thing are still alive. That's a little bit of a surprise, given some of the surprises, some of the shockers we had last weekend. But John, I want to ask you, what's your biggest shocker?
What side you looking at, Gary? I'm sorry. You talking about the men's side or the women's
Oh,
side?
men's side. Sorry about that.
Men's side. I guess the biggest shocker I had so far in the tournament, it was a big shock when Oakland knocked off Kentucky. That was a big shock to me. Didn't see that coming. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. I
Nope.
think another one was Auburn losing to Yale. That was a rough one. I think some people had Auburn going to the Final Four, man. But that's what March Madness is all about. Grand Canyon was another one. Bryce Drew doing a wonderful job at Grand Canyon, and they were able to knock off St. Mary's as a 12 seed, Grand Canyon as a 12 seed. You had a few 11 seeds come out on top, man. You had NC State, who is still advancing. You had who else was an 11 seed that came out? Oregon came out as an 11 seed. Duquesne came out as an 11 seed as well. Really surprised with them winning.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have NC State rolling. Another surprise for me, SEC is down to what? Alabama and Tennessee.
Yeah.
ACC still has Duke,
North Carolina,
Carolina,
North Carolina
Clemson.
State, Duke, and Clemson. Clemson.
Yeah,
Now there's a surprise for you.
yeah. So they're doing really well. The Big East, UConn's holding up the Big East, showing that they think there should have been more teams there than just UConn, and I can't think of who else came from there.
Marquette and Creighton.
Creighton and Marquette, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the pleasure of watching Marquette, covering Marquette in both their games this weekend. They really got pushed by Colorado in the second round on Sunday, as I think a lot of people probably expected them to. Colorado, man, you got to give them props. Playing with house money, they really showed they were no fluke with an epic game against Florida in the first round, 102-100. I mean, John, every time I think about that game, and especially about the KJ Simpson and that last second shot, and I'm just thinking, man, this is what I love about March Madness. But they get to the second round. Marquette really, really impressed me. And I'll just say this about being in Indianapolis and covering the South #2 in Marquette and the Midwest #1 in Purdue is both of them I think were really on redemption tours in these first 2 rounds, because you remember last year Purdue was knocked out by a 16 seed in the first round, and that really stung. And they came out on a mission. Props to Grambling, for getting through the first 4, and then props to Utah State, for getting there. But in both of those games and against both opponents, Purdue really had them overmatched. And Zach Edey, whether he's your player of the year or not, again, whether you think he's NBA worthy, That part remains to be seen. But I will say this: they are a strong team with him, and he is a force in the post right now. Of course, it gets tighter now for Purdue, but I tell you, these first two rounds, they really showed that they lived up to their number one seeding. And Marquette, meanwhile, just really showed what a solid team it is under Shaka Smart. Remember last year they got knocked out by Michigan State in the second round, a 10 seed. That one didn't happen against Colorado, even though it was a very, very tight game. And what I saw from Marquette was a Shaka Smart team that really just played a solid game. They minimized their mistakes. I don't even think they had 10 turnovers. I want to say they had 6. But they had Tyler Kolek in the clutch when they needed him. They got Cam Jones, got shots from him. They got they got baskets basically when they needed them. Every time Colorado would make a charge, they seemed to have an answer, and I think it just kind of wore them down a little bit. And Marquette might have been the most impressive team from what I saw. Of course, they were right there in front of me because they were a team that basically showed how solid they are, and they showed the potential of a team I think that could go deep in the South.
Marquette's really tough. I really like them. That bracket's going to be really interesting. Houston playing Duke. Remember last year, Duke got put out of the tournament by Tennessee, and they got
That's
put
right.
out because they couldn't be physical with Tennessee. They didn't know how to be physical.
Yeah.
Well, here we go again. You're playing Houston. Can you be physical? That's going to be the tail of the tape right there. Can you be physical and play them physical basketball, rough style?
Yeah.
I think Marquette should win, but it's a dangerous game, man. Dangerous game because I see this NC State team, and they remind me, again, I'm going back in the past, they remind me of 1983. Survive and advance, and
without a doubt.
And I just don't know, and they're playing with house money.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
We'll see. Now, on this side with Purdue, I think Gonzaga is going to be a very good match for them. Gonzaga has size and depth, and I think they can play with them. The other thing is they played early in the season, and Gonzaga played them really tough. I think it was in one of those preseason tournaments or maybe Christmas tournaments. They played them really tough.
Yeah.
I can see Gonzaga winning that. On the other side, where you got UConn and San Diego State, I think you're going to have a repeat there of UConn beating San Diego State again. Iowa State and Illinois, that's going to be a slugfest. We'll see. UNC Alabama is going to be really interesting. That's going to be up and down the court. I think UNC gets them. Clemson and Arizona. I'm going to say Arizona, but Clemson's like NC State. They're playing with house money, Gary. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, my observation, I'll say Houston was probably the biggest surprise because and I'm talking about more in their second round game against Texas A&M. Remember, John, we had picked this as probably the most painful game to watch because both of them are defensive focused teams. Didn't think there was going to be a whole lot of scoring in that, and Houston wins like 100-95 in overtime. I mean, again, two scoring challenge teams almost busted 100. So I think that kind of showed something from Houston that, maybe they are more than what their defense says they are, that they can score when needed. They're going to need a score against Duke. UConn and San Diego State, it's a rematch of the title game from last year. I like UConn in that because, again, I think UConn is a deeper team. San Diego State is they're a veteran team as well to watch, and I think they'll give them a game, but I think UConn is just right now just too deep. Iowa and Illinois State, I actually like Illinois in that game as much as dangerous as I think Iowa State is, and I think we agreed before that that's a team you don't want to face. Illinois has just been very, very strong in both of his tournaments games. You know, I mean, they basically are living up to being the Big Ten champion. I kind of like them in a slugfest there with North Carolina and Alabama. I'm with you. I think Alabama will give Carolina a game, but you know, I do like North Carolina, and you know, quiet as it's kept, that's another team with a lot of veterans. Nobody really talks about that, you know, because of RJ, but of course RJ is a you know, as a junior, that's kind of understated. So let's move over to the women's side, where you know, again, well, I don't think we really had any surprises there, but I think you know, the teams that we expected to establish themselves as the favorites, i.e., LSU and South Carolina, basically did what they were supposed to do, and I think you know that they're probably on a collision course to face off down the road.
Yeah, I mean, you had a couple upsets there. You had Middle Tennessee uh, beating Louisville. You also had Duke coming from behind to beat Ohio State. The
Mm-hmm.
one that really got me, Gary, maybe because the hometown team and I was rooting
I
for them,
know what this.
Maryland had Iowa State. They were up by 20 and lost. That was so unfortunate. I thought they could win that one and even beat Stanford and get to the Sweet 16. I think last night I watched Iowa, did not have their best game. I think they would score with 64 points as a total,
Yeah,
but they gutted it out and got a big win. West Virginia played them really, really tough.
yeah,
Juju Watkins had a great game for USC. You need to watch out for them. They're playing Baylor. I think that's going to be a really open game up and down the court, but I think USC will win that. South Carolina, they're rolling through everybody like you expect. They're on a mission, not to get to the Sweet 16, not to get to the Final Four, and not to get to the championship, but to win the championship. That's all that's on their mind. I think they beat Indiana. Oregon State, Notre Dame. You already know where I'm going with that, Gary. You know, Notre Dame.
what a
Um,
surprise.
Hana, Hana Hidalgo, unbelievable player. Citron, really great player as well. They really controlled the game yesterday against Ole Miss. Uh, and I keep saying these kids at Notre Dame don't realize they're a year away. They have no idea because Olivia Miles comes back next year. But all they're
Yeah,
thinking about is this year. And man, that could be a real slobber knocker. South Carolina and Notre Dame again. South Carolina beat Notre Dame by 31 first game of the season. I don't know how much better Notre Dame could be to do anything with South Carolina, but I just really believe they will be better and it will be a different game. Can they win? We'll have to see. The Texas and Gonzaga, Schaefer does a great job every year. He's got a strong defensive team, and they're tough down low. I
yeah,
think they win. NC State, Stanford. I think this NC State team is going to come to an end. I don't think they're going to advance. I think Stanford is going to advance there. So and on the other side, you got a collision course going in the Albany 2 bracket that happens to have Iowa, Colorado, LSU, and UCLA. But let me tell you a secret, Gary Graves. Let me tell you a secret.
okay.
This is not an automatic that you're going to see Iowa and LSU. It's not automatic.
No,
UCLA has the ability and the style of play to beat LSU and to give LSU problems. Colorado is basically Iowa playing against West Virginia again. They're going to be rugged. They're going to be physical. What's going to help Iowa? They just played against that style with West Virginia. But I'm going to tell you, watch LSU and UCLA. It's not a slam dunk that LSU wins that game. That's all I'll say there. And on
John,
the
I agree with you.
I'll,
You
huh?
know, I agree with you, and I hate to interrupt, but I think LSU, believe it or not, I think they might be the most vulnerable number one seed left right now. because of now the matchup that they face against UCLA. Everything that you said, I agree with. A team that can play with that same style. They've got scores as well, and they. I want to say they're not they haven't realized how good they are yet. I think they're still trying to build toward being that really strong team, and the better opponents that they play in each round seems to bring the best out of them.
Yeah, and that game against Creighton last night, that helped build them as well. That was a
Yeah,
game where they were down for a majority of the game, and they figured out a way to win. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to let you go ahead and share what you think, Gary. UConn is going to make a run, man. I think they beat Duke. Paige Beckers is playing good ball. What's the center's name? Aliana Davis. Aliana.
yeah, that sounds right.
Aaliyah. Yeah. Um, she's tough down low. You know, this is an Ariama team that's battle tested. They play hard in the NCAA tournament. They don't panic. They play great defense. They're fundamentally sound. They're going to be something to deal with. They beat Duke. USC beats Baylor in a up and down close game, and then UConn and USC. We don't have to pick that yet, Gary. I got time to think about that, but I think that'll be your regional final, UConn and USC.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. I want to talk about Iowa State for a second. In terms of, it's not just overcoming Maryland, my alma mater. It's just how they did it. Coming back from a big lead and really, using their post well. That woman. Oh gosh! All of a sudden now I'm drawing a blank on her name.
Crooks.
Brooks. Yeah, I tell you, she established herself in the middle in a way I don't think I've seen any player of her size. And I'm talking about her height because she's not that big. I mean, she's not that tall, but again, she's really strong, and she can muscle players out of the way, and that's basically what she did. And I loved watching her play. Um, I mean, that team was something else. But talking about, I guess, some of the upcoming matchups, I think the most intriguing one for me might be Iowa and Colorado, because, like you said, they played West Virginia in that kind of style. I think Colorado's going to give them a game. Now that it's on a neutral court, anything can happen. I think, when you've got like a neutral crowd, there might be, a lot of them rooting for Colorado as the underdog.
I was
And
going to say, Gary, I was going to say, there's no such thing as a neutral court for Iowa as long as they got Caitlin Clark. There's no such thing as a neutral court.
yeah,
She's always going to be the crowd favorite.
yeah, she's going to be the crowd favorite. But again, you're not just playing Kate Clark, you're playing the whole team. And I think if again, you do what you got to do, but you also have to try to neutralize other players that you don't want to get beat by. I mean, Caitlin's going to get hers, and we've been at a point with her now for 2 years. Well, basically, I'll say 4 years, where you can't stop her. You can just hope to contain her. And the one thing I think, again, you limit the damage that she can do, but you keep others from making from doing damage, the other ones around her from doing damage. And that's where I think Colorado needs to focus. And I think that's where they can really, make a dent. South Carolina, Indiana, well, South Carolina, that's all I'm going to say. And no disrespect to Indiana. It's just Dawn Staley is making the adjustments this year in tight games that she didn't do last year against Iowa. I think that was one of the biggest things that surprised people, that against Iowa, that she didn't adjust. And, I mean, that's one of those ones I think where they look back on and say, yeah, we let one get away. They're not letting anyone get away. They're at full strength, and she is managing games very well. And again, I think I mentioned about LSU being vulnerable. Notre Dame is probably the most dangerous team left in the field for all the things you said about Hannah Hidalgo, who I still don't think, John, she's getting the respect that she deserves as a game changer. What do you think about that?
Well, I think Coach Ivy's bringing her along slowly. I think she is really, really good, but I think you won't see the full extent of how good she really is until probably next year or the season after.
Oh, no doubt.
Um,
No
I
doubt.
think I think she's done a lot of good things, but I also think the matchup against South Carolina may not be the best matchup for her. She's going to be, if they get that far, if both of them get that far, you're facing basically Hidalgo is, I can't think of another way to say this. She's looking in the mirror when she goes against Full Wiley. So I
Yep.
just don't I just don't know if that's the best matchup for her or for Notre Dame.
Very, very good point. Full Wiley, the X factor for South Carolina. I mean, it isn't like she's a secret or anything like that, but I think maybe even more so than Camila Cardoso, that she is probably the one that can really determine how that game goes for South Carolina, because there are so many things that she can do. She can get the ball to Cardoso. She can shoot. She can rebound. She plays defense. She steals. I mean, she does almost everything. If she were a baseball player, she'd be what we call a 5-tool player.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's the thing I think that makes her dangerous. That's the again, the X factor, the one that everybody should keep their eye on, because I think she's really going to play a big factor in how that game goes for South Carolina, and probably going forward for the rest of this tournament, because Camila Cardoso, I feel like she's going to get hers. How much she gets, I think, depends on Full Wiley in terms of getting her the ball, in terms of how, again, how many of those key rebounds that she could get, or how many shots she can get off if Cardoso is double teamed.
It's going to be interesting, Mr. Gray. It's going to be very interesting. I can't wait again until the weekend to watch more of these great games. Well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Can't wait.
That's right, Monday. So, yep. Well, John, another fine time has come to an end way too quickly. I wish we had time to talk about baseball, but we can look ahead to that maybe next week when we talk about the Final Four on both sides of the game. And John, is always a pleasure. Folks, watch sports because there's plenty of it on. And John, take us home.
Hey, watch some more sports this week. Gary said we got baseball getting ready to start. Watch the NCAA for the men. Watch the NCAA for the women. And just enjoy yourselves. Come back and see us again real soon. Take care.